Yeah, so what I realized in trust, so I've just come out of this relationship where I blindly trusted everything that came out of his mouth. Literally everything.
Yeah.
And were the red flags there? Yeah. And the red flags, and it's interesting because the red flags for me, every time I had one of them, I thought, oh, that's my trauma.
Mm.
All right? That's me.
Yeah.
That's my trauma. Because, okay, so he's Mark 2, right?
What's Mark 2?
We'll call him Mark 2. There was a Mark 1, right?
Right, okay.
I've got a track record with Marks.
Oh, yeah.
Please feel free to share this. No Marks, please. So when Mark 2 would say things, and I was like, I was thinking, okay, it's because I still haven't healed that trauma from Mark 1.
So how do you decipher that difference?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. That's the thing. How do you decipher that? How do you know I'm taking the blame or actually there's something wrong here, right? I suppose my commitment to myself in the time that I was with him, my commitment is always to my truth, to my path, to myself. And I said that to him. I love myself more than I love you, and my commitment is to my journey and my truth. And I know that I get sidetracked into this love stuff. You know, I do. The love addiction, and I want it, and let's cancel my diary so I can be with you, and all that. I absolutely see that. But what happened in this relationship was I stayed true to myself. So I have a breathwork practice that really works for me, and the hands practice, keeping myself in connection with myself, my truth, my community. Breath really helps me as well. So for me, it's like trusting that it will reveal itself by me staying in connection with me. And it did, but it took me a year. It took me a year. And ultimately, I wasn't trusting myself, was I? That's the thing. I wasn't trusting myself. For me, going forward, I can see that what I need, I actually wrote a blog a few years ago about trusted men. And for me, going forward is very much the proof is in the pudding, right?
Yeah.
The proof is in the fucking pudding, and that takes time.
It does take time. And to allow yourself to run the process, let the process run through.
Let the process run through.
And then when you'll know, right?
You exactly.
And then react.
Yeah.
And do something.
Yeah. So this guy, Mark 2, lied about everything, still lying about everything, right? So the poor guy that I'm going to end up in a relationship, well, not poor guy, he's going to have to prove himself to me.
Yeah, right.
You know, when he says he has a TVR in a garage, and he owns it, and he doesn't have that, I'm going to ask, can I see that TVR? This is what I need.
Yeah.
I need it.
Yeah.
I need that to trust you and trust me. I need it. And that might be different from someone else. They might need something else, but this is what I need. So I can see that.
And then once you've done that for you, then you can be there for other people.
Yeah.
In whatever form that takes.
Yeah.
If you're not being authentic to yourself, you can't truly be authentic to anyone.
No. It's always an inside job. And I had to see how I was attracting that part in me that was reflected in him, obviously. You know, it is. And I've handed over on, and I'm feeling a little bit, oh shit. On Sunday, I handed over £10,000 worth of diamonds to this guy at a stall at Tynemouth Metro because I'm wanting to all these fucking rings from the past, you know, engagement, wedding rings. I'm like, I'm going to make a ring for me out of them, right?
Nice.
Yeah, and then I'm like, here's £10,000, and I haven't heard back from him, and I'm like, oh, fuck, Lisa, have you but I'm not going to stop.
Universe going, you don't need those.
You don't need those. And that's, do you know what? I would be okay with that. And I don't want to close my heart and stop trusting.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to do that. I really don't want to do that. And it's interesting because when Mark talks to me, my heart wants to trust every word that comes out of his mouth. But my mind is going, that's a lie, that's a lie, that's a lie. Because I know it's a lie, right? Yeah. And moving forward, it takes time to build trust. It takes fucking time. I always knew there was more to sex than what I was experiencing. I've always found it fascinating. When you know there's something more, I just knew. And I was Googling it, and it would say, actually, if you can have a clear orgasm, you're lucky. You're one of the lucky women. Some women can't have orgasms, and then there's the women that can have internal orgasms and blah, blah, blah. But actually, and I just knew there was more. And then my husband died. I went off the rails a bit. I ended up marrying Mark 1.
What a time frame? How old are you at this? Just to know.
Okay, so Tony died when I was about 45. Yeah, and the kids were 18, 10, 14.
How long had you been with Tony? Was it just to get a feel for like what chunk of your life?
Yeah, I feel now. We've been together for... I'm going a bit blank. I met him when I was 30.
Yeah.
And I had Joachim, my son, at the time. So Tony's not his dad. And I moved to England. So that was from Denmark. I lived in Denmark at the time. I moved to England when, I went when I was 20, I'm 30. And then I had Helena pretty quickly after, mid-30s, and Becca. And then when Becca was born, I'm trying to work out, she was born in 2001. My mind's just going mushy at the moment.
Sorry.
No, it's all right.
It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff.
It's a lot. So it was hard. It was hard. The hardest thing I've ever had to do was to tell the girls that their dad was going to die. Hardest thing ever in life.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it's so hard. So after he passed, however old I was, about 45, we'd probably been together about 15 years.
Okay.
Yeah, about 15 years. And yeah, I went off the rails a bit. I was both looking for connection, and there's always been men in my radar. Yeah, there was a story, I won't go into that right now. And then I met Tony died in the August, and I met Mark the following May, and fell in love with him, well, what I thought was love. Ended up marrying him, and ended up just pleasing and giving so much away that I didn't even know I was giving away. Right? I paid for everything. I was like, come here, I'll look after you.
Do you feel like you had that in you already, or was that in part because of having lost your partner before, that you felt like you had to hang on even tighter to this new?
I felt it was
like possibility.
I felt it was within me. I think the pleaser is really within me,
yeah.
and the love addict was really, or still is probably, that's an ongoing process. Is still was really within me. The thing is, it's all unconscious as well. So we're playing this game, him and I, unconsciously, that we don't even know what we're doing. So we ended up getting married. Big mistake. And then I managed to get out of it, and that's probably so I was 50. It was literally around about my 50th birthday, and for the first time in my life, I was single, and I was committed to being. There was no one in the background. There was any sort of. It's interesting because I remember being so scared of it, but it took me about 10 seconds to get over it. It was actually not so scary. It was actually a relief to be single. So once he was out the door, and things were cleared, which took a while because there was money involved. I was right, okay, I'm going to do what's right for me. And I came across this sort of Mickey Mouse tantric course, but it wasn't very good. And the woman who did it's actually committed suicide, bless her soul. But there was something in it. That I was like, I need to learn more. So I was like, right, I'm going to go to London. I found this tantric journey school, and I was like, I'm going to go down. I didn't know what I knew. I somehow felt that I was going to bring some of that work to the Northeast, but I had no idea what it was going to look like, what it was going to feel like. I didn't Google this guy. I later found out he'd been in prison twice. Everyone's left the school now. But I went down and I did all the levels, level 1, level 2, level 3.
Level 1, level 2.
Okay, so level 1 is clothes on bodywork.
Yeah.
Level 2 is clothes off bodywork, and that includes prostate massage for men, lingam massage, and yoni massage for women. Level 3 is penetration.
Right.
I was not ready for that, but I still did it because
Okay.
I was playing that game of thinking that I'm ready, but I didn't.
This is what I need to do.
This is what I need to do. This is what I need to do. Yeah, I'm on it, man. I've got it. Yeah, I'm cool. You know, I'm 1, 2, 3. Where's level 10? Come at me, right?
Yeah.
And I think I do a lot of that. I do a lot of that. Throw myself in the deep end and like, oh shit, I'm coming back. So I did all the levels, and it's interesting because I remember doing level 3, and I had this real itch inside my yoni. I was called yoni because that's quite sacred. And my teacher would say to me, "Oh, you need to get that looked at." And I was thinking, "Oh, there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong. There's something wrong." And I've had that itch before, right? I thought I had some sort of sexually transmitted disease or you know, something that wasn't right, and I was making it about me being wrong. And I see now it was my body saying no.
Yeah.
But I wasn't listening.
Yeah.
So I went to sex clinic and tested, and there was nothing wrong there, but I believed my teacher, and I made myself wrong, and I was overriding myself. And the first session I had with him, he gave me oral pleasure, and he was really good at it. He was amazing. I mean, technique-wise, amazing, right? A lot of what a woman really wants, right?
Yeah.
And we won't go into that now. You know, technique has its place. It absolutely has its place. I wouldn't say it. I think it's important. But I was like, this feels amazing, and I had an orgasm, and I was like, is this okay? And he's like, yeah, as long as you have an orgasm early on in the session, that's fine. And I was like, okay. And I remember going back to my friend Little, and I was like, he was fucking awesome at oral, and we were laughing a bit at it because it felt good.
Yeah.
And this is one of the keys in the work. It felt good. But who was it for? At the time, I didn't even think about it. But this brought me to the work. Who is it for? Who was it for? Then what happened in my journey was then I then became this tantric body worker. I did lots of sessions with clients. And the first guy who actually gave me a yoni massage in the level 2, we were there was a little bit of interaction going on between him and I. He was from South Africa, but he came to London. And he was like, practice level 3. And I'm going, no, I'm not ready for level 3. I don't want to do any. I knew that I wasn't ready to do anything like that. Anyway, we decided that he would come up and came and visited me. I worked in a little beautiful cabin out in Pontoon. And we went for a drink, went to the cabin, and I was flirting with him. I was absolutely flirting with him. And I was wanting some sort of attention from him. I see that. I know that. And I looked him in the eye and I said, what do you want from me? And he said, I want nothing from you. I just remember crying with relief.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But then what happened was that I had a sore back, and he said, look, I'll massage you. And because we were both quite comfortable with nudity, and you know, I think that's one of the things about doing all this work. I am very comfortable with nudity. I don't have a problem. I still have body shame and all that, but I'm really comfortable. I actually like being naked.
Right.
So he started massaging me with oils, and he was naked, I was naked, he was aroused, and I was aroused. I could feel him.
Yeah.
But not to the extent that I was wanting any form of penetration, right? So it was happening really beautifully, and then he just rammed it in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about like shattering all the trust that could have been built up into that point.
Yeah.
Within that environment as well.
And what happened was that I got triggered, and I was just like, I pushed him away. Yeah. And then the first thing he said to me was, when was the last time you had fun when you had sex? Wow. And what I did, I blamed myself. I blame myself. It's like, yeah, you're right. I should be this orgasmic woman who's up for it left, right, and center, and who can just orgasm at the drop of a hat, and who want. I really did. I noticed that within me, right? So I went into that victim mode, which then there was some anger. There was still some anger, but the victim represses the anger and goes into this fearful state, because there was probably still someone in me, some part of me that was wanting connection with him, right?
Yeah.
So it was a bit awkward. He then slept in one room. I went and slept in the other room, and then he came in the morning, and I feel ashamed to admit this, but I let him wank between my legs.
Right.
Probably because I still...
Was that just to let him get it done, or was it because you didn't want to disappoint him?
I don't know. A friend of mine went on a date recently and had sex when she didn't want it. And I said, why? It's safer to do it. Maybe there was some safety, but I've got to own my part in this, right? I want it.
Of course,
okay, right, because I don't want to blame him. It's co-creative, right?
Absolutely.
There was a part of me that still wanted him to like me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. There was a part of me that still wanted him and was probably still blaming myself. Right? Oh, why aren't I up for sex left, right?
Yeah, I led him on.
Yeah, what's wrong with my yoni? You know, it's all that. Oh, it's all. I'm broken, because that was a story that I got from my teacher. You're broken. Your yoni is broken, and woman after woman would come to me.
Your yoni is broken under what? Under what?
It's traumatized. There's trauma there. That's what's causing all this.
And so it's broken.
Well, yeah, it's traumatized, and he can fix it, right?
Right. Okay.
So basically, he's fixing women's yonis with, massage, which can absolutely help. Also penetration with a soft penis, which can possibly be healed. I'm not saying it can't be. I personally think that is best in a relationship rather than a therapeutic setting, in that sort of sense.
But isn't the intention of the man, isn't that a crucial part of it?
Yes, exactly. But so this brings us then back to the whole, who is it for? So the work that I do is breaking down, when two people are interacting, who is it for? Is it for you or is it for me?
Yeah. Right?
So in my body and the women's bodies that were going to see this guy, let's say my tantric teacher, it felt as though it was for him. Right? It felt as though it was for him, right? He could say he was in service and it was for us. And this is one of the big things where things go wrong, is that one person, particularly the man in a relationship, will feel like it's for her. I'm doing it for her. It's for you. It's not for me. It's for you. But she, in her body, because of all that we carry, we feel as though it's for you.
Yeah.
Because there's no agreement.
There's no agreement.
There's no agreement. So if there's no agreement, there's no consent. And we don't know.
Yeah.
And that's why the work that I do is so fucking important. It's so important. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear. I do swear a bit, yeah, because I'm like, well. It's so important because it breaks it down, and we practice the 4 quadrants. Your action for you, your action for me, my action for you, my action for me. And we take sex out the window. We practice non-sexual touch. Hands. If I was to say to you, touch, so what happens is that you start with an object, because I don't have any story around it. Well, I might have a story around the object. Pleasure is based on 3 components. It's based on the sensation that I'm experiencing in my skin, right? What I'm feeling pleasure when I'm doing this. It feels nice. It's based on the attention. So I'm feeling this, but I'm looking out the window. I don't feel so much pleasure, right? So the sensation and the attention. And then the third component, which is huge, is the meaning. The meaning I make around this object. So when I'm waking up my hands to pleasure, there's not so much meaning. But I think I shared this. People make meaning, and it's like, oh, if I put a plastic thing in there, I don't want to touch that as plastic. It's not so good. But in reality, I could be touching a plastic fork and could feel just as nice as touching a shell, a natural shell.
Meaning you give to
It's
it.
a meaning, so it's all about the meaning, right? So when I'm touching, this is why we always start with hands and an object. Because if I'm touching your hand or your hair, there's more meaning making in that because you're a human, and how I feel about you and the stories I make about you and what I make up about you, right? Even this is non-sexual. So we start with the hands and we keep connecting with the hands so that we embody that. We notice the meaning we might make, but we're focusing on the sensations. What am I feeling? Well, all the focus is here, but then the mind does all that. That's fine, but we come back here. And this really brings us into the body, right? And then when the hands wake up, then the whole body starts to wake up. And then I would ask, if you were sitting there, may I touch your hand for me?
Right.
May I touch your hand for me? And you would feel into, is that a yes, or is it no? Is it no? Most people say yes because we're all yes sayers, all right? But actually some people were like, no, I want to sit out on this one. I'm not sure. It's a maybe. And I always say, if it's a maybe,
it's a no.
It's a no. It's a no.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If any doubt, no.
Yeah.
And then I would if it's a yes, then I would respect your limits. So your limits might be, yeah, you can touch my hand, but I don't want you to do this. I don't want you to touch my thumb, if that's a thing, you know.
Yeah.
Or I don't want you to touch the back of my hand.
Sensitive on the
Or
palm.
yeah, can you stay away from the palm or whatever. So we practice that. I'll touch your hand for you, where you're putting your limits in place to the best of your ability. And then your limit may be overstepped. You know, you may leave and think, oh, actually, I didn't really want it, but I went along with it because I wanted to please her. She's a teacher or whatever, you know, whatever story there is there. And then at least that, so we're bringing things to the surface.
You can learn from that.
And learn from that. So we're bringing things to the surface, but we're doing it really gently rather than going full on. Yeah, do you know what I mean? We're doing it gentle. And what a lot of the participants say, well, because I do the workshop in here is, we don't do a lot, but a lot happens. So this brings so much stuff to the surface.
So what kind of people do you have that come here?
Mostly,
what are they looking for, or what do they feel they need?
They're looking to connect with themselves on a deeper level, because this is really about connecting to ourselves and knowing our desires, being able to ask for them, being able to say no, knowing our limits.
This is it. So
it's boundaries.
People don't have to go to I guess more advanced physical stages to learn some of the fundamentals of being able to say no. Like some of the no stuff is the important stuff.
Yeah, and this is what's brought me from that tantric work, which is where I realized that I was overriding myself. You know, I signed a consent form. That he could enter my body part with his body parts.
Yeah.
But we weren't listening to what does my body want? And that's a very, very different scenario to what being done to. So we learn to go along with touch from birth. You know, we're picked up from birth. We're put absolutely where we don't want to be. We have no choice, ever.
Yeah.
We can't.
Yeah, we tell our children to go kiss their grandparents, regardless of if they want to.
Yeah. Anything. We're so conditioned to going along with and to make the most out of it, right? Which is why, you know, with my teacher, it felt amazing. I had an orgasm. It felt good. And I've had a lot of those experiences that have been extremely pleasurable. Maybe orgasm's been involved, but it was like, did I want it?
Yeah, right.
And it's okay if I do want it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's like, what does my body want, right? And even if I'm doing some self-pleasure, right, I can go into all these ideas of what I think is going to happen, right? I'll line things up, I'll have everything ready, and I'll lie in bed, and then I was like, what does my body want? And my body might just want to be held.
Yeah.
And I'm I'm like, oh, the mind's going, oh yeah, but I want all that, blah, 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 blah. And the body just put a hand here. Put a hand here. Breathe. That's what I need now. Here, there's something here, right? So if I just feel it and even now, am I sitting comfortably? Am I even listening to my body? I'm sitting a bit twisted with my leg. Actually, that's probably more comfortable. What's the most comfortable? And then I'm trying to adapt myself to a camera, right? So I can't maybe. So it's like, so we're forever overriding ourselves. We don't even know we're doing it.
It's such an interesting point you made about, I had an orgasm, but did I want it?
Yeah.
Because I think especially like couples, and I say this from personal experience, with my partner, it's always make sure she orgasms and whether or not we get there. If she does get there, it's like, then I feel like, oh, I did it.
I've done it.
And then, but now it's like, but is that what she wanted?
Yeah.
And it's such there's a beautiful twist on it. It's like, it needs to be more communication.
Yeah.
There's a funny contrast with, for me as a man, making a woman orgasm. Am I doing it for myself or for them?
Yeah.
Is it because I feel good and then safer to have my own orgasm without her feeling left out? But then it's like, was I really present for her, or was I doing it for me?
Yeah, and just being brutally honest about all of that.
And I feel like, me personally, I'd ride the waves of both. Sometimes it is like an ego thing, like I've still got it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just want to plead. I want her to feel.
You want to be in service of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, does she want that?
Does she want? Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I love that.
And what I experience, especially here, is that men, they really want to be in service. You really do. You really do want to be in service of us. And we want you to, but we're not very good at receiving.
You want us to when you're open to.
When we're open to it, right? So it's our responsibility. It's really our to know our bodies moment to moment, and express that.
And it's challenging, right?
It's
women's bodies are so much more complex than men's, just from like a hormonal standpoint.
Yeah. So we have that responsibility. It's fascinating, and if we ask ourselves in any, who's this for? We're doing this now. We're filming this. For me, it's definitely for me because we have an agreement around it. I'm going to give there's a money exchange happening. It's for me. And it's to share the work that I'm doing. So there's agreement around it. Yeah. I bet if you go into schools and you say to the kids, who's the teacher teaching for you or for them? The kids are going, it's for them. I don't want to be listening to that. And the teacher, well, I'm doing it for the children because if we know what's best and what's right for them. What I love about this work is that it's brought. So we focus on touch, but non-sexual touch. And then the thing is, when you then bring it into the sexual arena after you have embodied that clear being in connection with your body, then it just opens up. Because what we're doing here is nervous system regulation. We're regulating the nervous system, so the nervous system knows, okay, I'm gonna express my truth. I'm going to honor what my body wants. And when the body is touched in a way that it wants to be touched, nothing less, nothing more, it just goes, oh God, thank you. Yeah. And then it starts opening and opening and opening. And then we move away from contractive orgasms to more expansive orgasms, which is a different ballgame. At a workshop, and my friend, I said, will you get me a cup of tea? And he brought me a cup of tea, and he brought it in, and I like a full cup. And it wasn't full, it was like a 3/4 cup. And I looked at it and I said, I'd like a full cup. And he looked at me, and I said, you can say no. He went, right, no. And gave it to me. And then I can go and fill my own cup up, right? Because that's what I want. But often I think we don't ask for what we really want. Just in terms of, often people come here and I'll say, how do you want your coffee? Oh, however it comes. Whereas I'll go to a coffee shop and I say, I want a 1.5 shot latte. And I need to taste that it's quite right. Or can you put a bit more milk in? Or, and
you do need to get better at asking for what you want.
And still I can be a bit like, ooh, But then we don't we don't get what we really, really want. And there is something in, okay, well, I'll do it myself because then I'll know I get exactly what I want. And it can be the same with touch. You think about it, I can touch myself moment to moment and feel into what my body wants. Okay, let me do that. Let me demo that. See, my body just wants me to do this, and I'm noticing a story that I should be demoing pleasure, you know, I should be touching something, but my body's going, I just want this. But probably because it probably feels a bit unsafe for me being in front of a camera.
Yeah, it's quite vulnerable, right?
And vulnerable. So my body's just like,